The NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying for the Enjoy Illinois 300 at Gateway, aka Worldwide Technology Raceway, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, really the southern tip of the state of Illinois. And just a couple of minutes into the practice session here as things get started very quickly, knowing that the NASCAR Xfinity Series race will be right here at Gateway later on tonight. So this is our first of 3 live commentary streams of the weekend, first of back-to-back live commentary streams right here on the channel for this Saturday evening into Saturday night show. None of the playoff drivers in Group 1 have practiced. They'll be in Group 2 all the way through the postseason. So as far as the drivers on track right now, we have 18 of them, and they would all be non-playoff drivers led right now by Ty Gibbs as far as the fastest overall lap time, 136.786 mile per hour average with a lap time of a 32.898 around this mile and a third flat oval. We haven't seen a lot of tire fall off here at Gateway. In recent years, they are using a slightly softer tire compound, I believe for just the right side tires here this weekend compared to what we've seen with the first 3 next-gen races. So that's kind of the update for the racetrack. First 3 races also with this next-gen car, and just in general for the Cup Series at Gateway 2022 through 2024, they've all been in June. We have not had a later summer, early fall race like we have this weekend here in September, weekend after Labor Day. Behind Ty Gibbs, we've got Brad Keselowski, who finished top 5 in this race a season ago in 2nd, Carson Hocevar 3rd, Todd Gilliland 4th, Cole Custer in 5th, and Michael McDowell 6th, former pole sitter at Gateway, Zane Smith 7th, John Hunter Nemechek 8th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 9th, and Noah Gragson rounds out the top 10. Richard Fulmer, Marcus Villarreal, welcome into the stream, guys. Appreciate you hitting the like button. We're already up to 13 likes just a couple minutes into the stream. Nick Bell will be the fastest in practice, qualify front row at Worldwide Technology Raceway. I feel like Marcus Villarreal in the chat would have said on pole if it weren't for the fact that Chase Briscoe, his teammate, has had so many front rows and so many pole awards so far this season. 11 front row starts for Chase Briscoe on the year. I believe 6 poles, if my memory serves me correct on that number. And he was just on the front row again last weekend at Darlington, where he dominated, won the race, led 309 of 367 laps en route to his 2nd consecutive Southern 500 victory. He is now locked into the round of 12 of the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. 15 drivers are now vouching for these final 12 spots with 2 races to go. The 2 races, obviously, this weekend at Gateway and then next Saturday night at Bristol. Denny Hamlin's plus 43 above the cut line. Kyle Larson plus 38, plus 35 for Tyler Reddick. His teammate Bubba Wallace plus 25. Same for William Byron, also plus 25. Ryan Blaney plus 22. Ross Chastain plus 21. Then much tighter from 9th through 12th, where Cindric is in 9th, last year's winner here at Gateway, plus 12. Christopher Bell, who led the most laps of that race a season ago, plus 11. Chase Elliott plus 9. SVG plus 3, making his debut at Gateway. Joey Logano minus 3, first driver below the cut line. Austin Dillon minus 8, and then minus 19 points for both Alex Bowman and Josh Berry, who had pretty poor performances. They finished both outside the top 30 a week ago at Darlington Raceway. JoJo Frank Powers, welcome to the stream as well. I'll turn it to the TV booth now, where we'll have Marty Snyder for practice and qualifying today, along with Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton. 18.5 minutes to go yet in Group 1.
The map, remember he's filling in for Corey LaJoie and was running top 15. They had a brake rotor failure, but that's the day where people said, hey, that kid's got some speed.
Yeah, and he backed it up with an 8th place finish here last year. So I really think this is a car I have circled. He's sitting much better equipment than he was when he drove the Spire Motorsports 7 a couple of years ago. This team's really invested in their equipment. Coming to pit road now was a little surprising after 9 laps.
Yeah. And 3rd on the charts, too.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was saying about Kyle Busch. I just think he might not be able to explain how he does it, but he's not very robotic. He's a little bit of an artist. And I think this is anything but straightforward. So he just goes down to one end, Jeff, see what the car does, goes to the other end, see what it does, and then adjusts his driving style. So you see the 54 Gibbs, top of the chart currently. He's run some traffic down right here. I think that's the 4 of Noah Gragson in front of him. Now I want to see it's going to be hard to kind of widen out in practice. In the race, we've seen multiple lanes here. See what the 54 does. If he tries to run up the racetrack a little bit, no, he chases it right down to the bottom.
Jeff, how important is this practice session in qualifying, knowing, to Steve's point, it's going to be tough to pass tomorrow in the race? So
yes, sir.
how important is it to get
Tough to
into
pass
the
everywhere, Marty.
race tomorrow afternoon?
Especially here.
Say this: restarts here are wild, and it doesn't matter how well you start. If you can't gain positions or at least break even on restarts, it's not going to matter. I also agree with Steve. We've seen this racetrack wide out as the race goes on. You get guys running the outside groove on restarts. You see the 54 car looking for something different. You'll see a lot of that, even much higher tomorrow afternoon. It's just hard to get that done in practice. It's hard to get enough rubber laid down on the racetrack to make that second groove work.
When we talk about hard to pass, there's a lot of conversations, and I think they're all real on what it should be. How much faster should you be than the car in front of you before you can make the pass? I would say some of that challenge is just the quality through the field, right? There are 25 or 30 cars that are very, very similar in speed, and they're just really good. They don't make many mistakes. When I see passes in other series, specifically Xfinity and trucks, you sometimes see a bobbles out of the leading car. And man, when these guys get to the Sunday level, just rarely do they give a spot up by a mistake. There you go. There's up the lane right there for clean air, taking a left turn.
If it's going to widen out, Steve, would it be more in turns 1 and 2 than it would be down here in 3 and 4?
From what I've seen in past races, it's a little bit of both. Every year has a different feel. To be honest, I'm answering some questions myself. It's 4th time we've been here. I haven't been on site for the first 3 trips. I've watched Xfinity races, truck races, and to answer your question, yes, yes, and yes. I'm seeing it wide at one end, I'm seeing it wide at the other. It's not very consistent. And I think that's what makes it a little bit hard to just predict. Now the Ford's going to run up the lane. Ty said, I wish I'd have known you were going to do that. I would try at the bottom. But I think this is important for Ty. Continue to run. See what your car does.
So far here at St. Louis, Ty Gibbs, the quickest car, still trying to get around that 4 car as we continue practice here on True TV.
Whoops. Trying to pull the chat up on my phone. I pulled the wrong stream up. I had tonight's race up for a second. Get the chat back up and rolling. Cam, welcome to the stream. Glad I found the stream. What app is qualifying on? App-wise, Josh, I don't know off the app side of things because they're on Turner Sport. I would imagine the NBC Sports app still a thing? I have no idea if it is or not. I would assume it is. And if the NBC Sports app is a thing, that's probably where you can watch visually. True TV for cable provider wise. Most streaming platforms that cover your basic cable or, hotel bundle kind of TV, those TV channel packages will have your True TV on it. Live commentary coverage, obviously, right here on the channel every weekend for Cup practice qualifying, Cup racing, NASCAR Xfinity, and NASCAR Truck Series racing as well. So again, double duty here tonight. Xfinity race at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That's where we really get into the fun. This is fun too, but something about calling the races every week. I have a huge, I was going to say Infinity for, but it's the Xfinity race, not the Infinity race. Funny side note, my grandma always calls it the Infinity race. Is there anybody else out there that calls it Infinity all the time? I don't think she does it. The funny thing is, I don't think she does it as kind of like a silly name. I think she thinks it's actually Infinity. I'm like, I don't correct her, but I'm like, it's Xfinity. Like, yeah, I'll watch the Xfinity race. Hoping she'll eventually pick up on the X. Not going to matter much anymore because next week it'll start the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. I say next week, next year will be the O'Reilly Auto Parts series, now known as Xfinity. Dean Tate, welcome to the stream. You're home for NASCAR commentary. Appreciate that, man. It was such a chore to watch it somewhere. Yeah, I hear you. Especially if I mean, even if you don't have streaming and you don't have basic cable, you can barely watch NASCAR anymore nowadays because they only have what 6? No, 8. I think 8 races on Big Fox or Big NBC all season, 4 on each. That is not a lot. By each, I mean NBC and Fox. Otherwise, it's your Fox Sports ones, your USA networks. Oh, I had a black screen of death moment there for like 30 seconds, and now they just cut back onto the air. So I'll let you listen into the booth a little bit more leading into the next commercial break. Then we'll go through the full Group 1 practice order. We've got a little over 10 minutes to go until we get our roughly 5-minute break, and then Group 2 and all the playoff drivers will be on the racetrack.
To 21, to your point, I had all the playoff issues that happened being on pit road. I would have thought as pit road has transitioned to athletes, which is mostly what it is, who have played in other sports at relatively levels, collegiate levels or pro levels, I would have thought that they would have been more prepared, like mentally, for the playoffs. But you're right, man. The ball was fumbled for sure up and down pit road. At one point, the top 10 was full of playoff bars. And Hocevar had an issue. The caution came out, and they all disappeared. There was like 5 of them just nowhere to be seen again.
Jeff, is it just that everybody's trying to find a little bit more in the playoffs, so they try to find a little bit higher level, and they overstep their bounds?
I think some of it was that. Obviously, some of the contact on pit road didn't have anything to do with that. But for sure, anytime there's a postseason or anytime there's something more on the line, people try to take a step. And when you do, it's easy to make a mistake. And as fast as the pit stops are today, I mean, if you make any small bobble whatsoever, it costs a ton of time. So I think that also is a factor. It's just, they're so fast that when you do make a mistake, it just costs.
I also think the pit crews had that race circled all summer. The tracks are a bit clunky. There's some fuel mileage tracks, there's some strategy tracks in there. Darlington, as a pit crew guy, as you drive down to Darlington, South Carolina, that you're going to get 9 shots and kind of as fast as you can go. We're not waiting on fuel. Hopefully, we're not making adjustments. I mean, it's kind of like, 9 100-yard sprints. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And to your point, Jeff, right? Really, as fast as you can safely go. And I think it showed up that they all kind of get a little over their skis.
But at this time of year, a team like this, Fort Mill Zone 34, Todd Gitterland this weekend, this is a really important time of the year, right? So,
Sure.
didn't make the playoffs. Really hasn't been the year at all that Todd wanted to have or was expecting to have. Reunited with his crew chief, has tons of respect for Chris Lawson, but it just hasn't worked. And this is the time, Steve, where they can kind of with less pressure, so to speak, just go to work. And what do we need to be better at? How can we achieve our goals? Don't think about the year being over. It's a new beginning. It's a new opportunity to just keep building and trying to start next year where they really want to be.
Dylan Welch, what's happening on pit road?
Ari Snyder, how are you?
Good,
Doing
buddy.
good down here as well. Nice day in St. Louis. They want to talk about Ryan Freese as we follow him around here. He's in the midst of a 27-lap run here, and there's been some conversation on their radio between crew chief and spotter about some of the other teams commenting on the line they are running right here, turns 3 and 4. So we have the onboard shot here to take a look at what he's doing, and maybe Steve and Jim, you can comment on that if that's a little bit non-traditional. But the thing is interesting, and just looking at the lap times here for Freese, he has not bled off time nearly as badly as everybody else ahead of him here on the time charts. His fast lap on lap 3 is only about 4/10 quicker than the lap he just ran on the most recent lap. So that to me indicates a good long run car, a car that doesn't fall off too much. So maybe good for Freese come tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, good long run car, and also I would take a little bit of time and make sure you have your fuel mileage pretty well predicted, because I believe that's going to be a big part of this race and a track where you shift a lot more than normal tracks because of the length of straightaway. So down here, you're going to see one downshift. Got another downshift all the way to third gear. That's very non-traditional. Normally at ovals, we'll see fourth and fifth. This is down to third gear, 1 and 2, and then 2 shifts up the backstretch.
And as he discussed the line that he's running, watch what he does when he drives into turn 3. Kind of goes to the bottom of the racetrack, but then doesn't even try to run the bottom. Just goes to the middle of the racetrack, goes to the throttle, not turning the car on corner exit, not asking a lot of it. He does the same thing down here in turn 1. Enters on the bottom, drifts up a lane and a half. It just isn't asking the car to turn. Watch this. Not well, it's on the bottom now because the car in front of him went up the racetrack. So now he was looking for clean air. So instead of running that high exit, he stayed at the bottom trying to stay out of the wake of those ones.
The old double downshift, Steve. Would that help a driver like an SVG?
I don't know if it helps a guy like SVG. I think he'll do it different than others. He'll probably stack his downshifts, do them both sequentially pretty quickly. I talked to a few drivers today, and they all have a different theory on how to do it. So you see his first, then his second. So his are spread out. I actually think you can affect how your car drives. It's another tool that the driver has. Whether you stack the downshifts, whether you downshift the third lane, I think every time you increase RPM, it changes the balance of the race car. So whether you're fighting a tight or a loose condition, Jeff, you can downshift at different time of the corner.
If you look at Ryan Freese, he has run currently 31 laps. Just ran a 33.89. Ty Gibbs, 32 laps. Same number of laps. He's about a tenth of a second faster than Ty Gibbs. So this team has to like what they see right now. I will caution a little bit. Because when you're the first one to go out in that new groove, there's always a little speed there. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful not to fool yourself on the speed if other people aren't using a line.
5th fastest right now for Cole Custer, announced this week that they will be switching to Chevrolet next year, Jeff. They also announced that Cole will be indeed the driver of the 41. They'll have some technical support from Hendrick Motorsports, also Hendrick Engines. And that's what's going to happen in 2026 for those two teams. So Ty Gibbs finally gets by Noah Gragson. And I think the last few laps have been eventful for these two, trying to figure out how to get it right. And Ty finally gets around, and look at this.
Talk about how important track position is. This is practice. Trying to get clean air. Contact right there. Just having fun.
Just fellas.
Just having a good time.
That is.
It's youth.
Youthful enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But it took 20-some laps for him to get by him.
This race is going to be a patience tester because
Yeah,
you know
you don't say.
win the battle inch by inch.
Patience tester.
So it's frustrating for the driver trying to make the pass, Jeff. It's also frustrating for the driver being passed, obviously. This was the next lap.
So just trying to find some speed, right? It's following Ty Gibbs. He was able to stay in front of you for a long time, but okay, now.
Wow, that was a big moment.
A pass.
What a save.
Noah just trying
Noah
to find
Gragson.
some speed and did a nice job of saving the car.
I mean, he looked like he was wrecked.
Watching all those highlights. His teammate out there having to do the work, and then he able to sit on pit road and watch it.
But you know what's interesting, since Ty cleared this car, it didn't pick up any speed. No, he really didn't. I make an argument he actually ran maybe a tiny bit slower. He was running 20s. Now he's 30. So, maybe this 4 car has pretty decent pace. Ty just simply couldn't get by him because that last lap was 34.30. Priest the 34 flat. This lap, 34.23. So not much difference at all once he was able to get in front of the ball.
But Steve, this is lap 38. Ty Gibbs is working. So what does that tell you about how good or how well the car is on the longer run here? Because I know that's Chris Gabehart's goal. Hey, stay out and run as long as you can.
Yeah, I think cycling tires is a waste of time. You're not going to want to, make multiple runs on one set of tires here. So, but he's close enough to do it. So good job by the 54 of getting the balance correct where he can go run 37 laps. That's a long time. I mean, a fuel run, that's well over half a fuel run, I think, or right around half a fuel run.
How about the run for John Hunter Nemechek, Jeff, at Darlington? Career best fourth place finish for him. Both of the legacy cars in the top four. I mean, are they here to stay, Legacy Motor Club?
They are certainly making improvements, and you can see it. I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way into this year, things started to change. Started having races where you started seeing them. And I tell you what I like about it is it seems like when one of them runs well, they both run well. It's like,
I like that.
speed is coming to the entire organization, not just one car. And to me, that's always a good indication that the company in general is heading in the right direction. And that's so important. When you have one car that's performing and the other one's not, then that means they're not working that well together. The setup, we talked about Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon, two completely different setups here. Well, how do they help each other? Right? There's nothing they can do to help each other if they have completely different setups. It seems like this team is pretty aligned in their setups, and they're able to help each other.
Danielle?
Yeah, Marty, I talked to Eric Jones, John Hunter's teammate, about that earlier this week, and he said, you're right, you have seen the entire organization elevate with both cars. He said the reason I think is because we have beefed up our engineering department, and we've also put a lot more emphasis on our car builds, and we're seeing gains from those changes. He said Jimmy Johnson is also very active. He's no longer living in Europe. He said he has a very large presence at the shop. And
I didn't even know he was living in Europe.
Expectation level, he said you can certainly feel it around Legacy Motor Club.
Never hurts to have a 7-time champ in the building, does it? I think they've built really from the ground up. I mean, a ton of new employees at Legacy Motor Club over the last year or so, and it's really made a difference.
And little things make a huge difference in having the cars in two different sessions. Those are the small things. They ran well enough that they got the 43 between his points and where he ran at Darlington to get into the second session. That is so much more important, right? Because now Eric can listen to the 42's comments. They can maybe make some adjustments to the 43. They're actually, as an organization, using track time, much better than perhaps Spire, who has 3 cars in this session. Front Row, who had 3 cars in this session.
All right, so Group 1 is all done with their practice session. 25 minutes in the books. We'll have 25 minutes for Group 2 shortly, where we'll see all 16 playoff drivers, a couple more of the non-playoff drivers as well. Ty Gibbs, fastest from this group, ended up actually running from start to finish 40 laps over the course of the 25 minutes, and I believe that was the most laps ran of any driver. So he was the first guy out. He set the fastest time. 32.898 was that best lap time for Gibbs. 136.786 mile per hour average. It was more than a tenth and a half quicker than Brad Keselowski in second. Carson Hocevar was third quickest. Todd Gilliland fourth. Fifth quickest for Cole Custer. Michael McDowell, 6th, Zane Smith, 7th, John Nemechek, 8th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 9th, and Noah Gragson rounds out the top 10. 11th was Riley Herbst, Daniel Suarez, 12th, Cody Ware, 13th, Justin Haley, 14th, Chris Buescher in 15th, 16th for Ryan Preece, Kyle Busch, 17th, and Ty Dillon, 18th of 18. I'm surprised to see Kyle Busch that far down on the leaderboard here at Gateway. He has finishes of 1st and 2nd in the first 2 Gateway races here with the next-gen car. Ended up not great last year, finished outside the top 20, but his teammate Austin Dillon in the playoffs this year. I would assume that most of the focus probably going to be on that 3 team, at least until elimination from the postseason. And Austin Dillon's still very much in it. -8 points is not a lot, especially when you look at the guy who's right on the cutoff bubble, Shane Van Gisbergen, has never even raced at Gateway in his oval racing career, not just Cup Series career. It's the first time here, but running full-time Xfinity Series last season for SVG. The Xfinity Series was not racing at Gateway last year. In fact, their first race at the track this weekend since 2010, and that infamous Brad Keselowski and Carl Edwards finished down the stretch there. Chris Hurt, Federico Sanchez. I know I haven't mentioned anything to you yet about thank you for tuning into the stream as I try to shout you out, of course. Jimmy lived there, I think, for 2 years. Family member had died, I think. Yeah, I had no idea. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was centered around the Chicago weekend a couple years ago. I know of that story, obviously, but I had no idea that he had moved over to Europe. Learn something new every day. I'm glad somebody appreciates SVG's road course craft. I mean, we've seen a lot of guys that run supercars, you know, like a Marcus Ambrose, just other road course racing styles of motorsports. When Pablo Montoya, former world champion in Formula One, win races, but to do it at a dominant level like SVG has done this season, and really ever since he debuted, because he literally won his debut race in Chicago a couple seasons ago, it is really impressive. He's got one more this season at the Roval in the round of 12. We'll see if he can get there with a shot to continue his incredible rookie season by way of just, you know, where he's got. It's hard to believe he's got 5 career wins already. Like, for instance, to put it into perspective, Austin Dillon just got his 6th career Cup win a couple weeks ago at Richmond. He's been in the Cup Series for 13 years. SVG has had not even a full-time season worth of Cup Series races, and the guy's already got 5 career Cup wins. Like, just put that in perspective real quick. It is insane. I don't care what style of racetrack he's winning on. Because he's not just winning the races, it's the fact he's won by 10 plus seconds twice now. He's just obliterating the field. He's leading the most laps. And he's still able to put himself, even in situations where he's won some stages this year, and still be fast enough to race his way back through and win the race like he did at Watkins Glen in the last one, where he won stage 2 and still went on with his strategy, won the race. Or, sorry, no, he won stage 2. It wasn't Watkins Glen. It was the race before that. Road course wise. Sonoma. There we go. I got it eventually. Look at the lap averages. I don't think we're going to see a lot of variance here because there isn't a lot of tire fall off this weekend. Ty Gibbs did have the fastest 5-lap average. Brad Keselowski fastest 10-lap average. And as we usually see for the RFK guys, Brad pulled into the pits before he can make a 15-plus lap run. Michael McDowell actually had the fastest 15, 20-lap average. Ty Gibbs, fastest 5 and 25-lap average. See how many, only 4 drivers ran 25-lap averages. Really, there weren't even that many drivers that ran 20-plus consecutive, or sorry, I was looking at the wrong category. Weren't even many drivers who ran 15-plus consecutive laps of the 18 that were just on track in Group 1. Waiting for that caution light to flick green on the upper left-hand corner of your guys' screen here on stream. We'll take our first ad break while we are awaiting Group 2 to hit the racetrack shortly. Commercial break, full screen, still airing on True TV as well. You're listening live, KRC Productions of NASCAR Cup Series practice at Gateway. Knew he was spending time in the UK. No idea why. Guesses the IndyCar influence in Europe. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad guess, I guess. Yeah, being at a road course in person, I definitely highly recommend it. It was very eye-opening the first time, only being at oval races, whether that be like local dirt shows, NASCAR races up to that point were all oval at several different racetracks. And then going to Watkins Glen for the first time back in 2019 really opened my eyes to... That was like the starting point to me turning around to road course racing as a guy that not only primarily watched oval racing, but opened my eyes to how good it is to even watch in person. How technical of really getting the appreciation for what the drivers are able to do and make it look so easy on a lap-by-lap basis. while making the fastest laps they possibly can. Yep, practice currently, Earl. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. And as usual, qualifying on this stream. Not going to be two separate streams for practice and qualifying. Single car, once again this week. 1.33 mile racetrack, so labeled as an intermediate oval. We will have just one round, one lap for all 36 drivers this weekend. No non-chartered entries outside of course, Front Row and 2311, who are still running the full schedules that started the season as a charter race team. And that whole ongoing legal battle continues and will continue onward through December into the off season. Curious to see the lap averages for Group 2. There's usually more fall off in Group 1 because it's a cleaner racetrack to start, so the lap times are going to be quicker out of the gate on the short run, and then by the time the long run comes around, they're not going to be as fast long run speed as the drivers in Group 2. More race conditions, I guess, for the Group 2 drivers. That's where they get the advantage in practice. Here's Ty Gibbs with Dylan Welch.
Kind of just figuring out, where I can get better at, how I can get better passing, making time up for a little bit tight. So, I think we're going to make great adjustments and I will be pretty good. And we'll see how it goes.
All right, good info to learn from the 54 that he can share with his three teammates that are getting ready to roll out here in Group 2.
Yeah, certainly some info for Tyler Allen to work on with overnight. And here's how the playoff standings shape up.
All right, we already talked about the playoffs ourselves here, so we're just waiting for the green. It looks like they have gotten the green. So get you back to the commentary coverage on True TV here shortly. I'll take over in full for when we get to qualifying as usual again. And they should have a commercial break about 12, 13 minutes in like they usually do. It was weird though, because last week at having the morning practice for the Southern 500, they actually didn't have any commercial breaks in either Group 1 or Group 2 practice. It's like they just assumed they weren't getting as many viewers because it was a 9 a.m. start time on the Eastern time. So they're like, yeah, I guess we don't have to run as many commercials. We don't have as many people watching. Why can't we just assume that to be the case every weekend during the races too? That'd be nice.
Yeah, no questions about who was going to win that race. These such big wins to go out and dominate the Southern 500. Clearly a big run by Red late in the race, but Briscoe not only was fast on the track, but you talked about all the mistakes on pit road throughout the night. This team had one of those nights where I'd love to be able to do it every single night. Very little mistakes. Anytime you take the kids to victory lane, that's a good day.
Brooks got to celebrate with Dad in victory lane after the most dominant performance of his career, and now this team gets to kind of focus on the next round, Steve. But are we just scratching the surface of what this 19 team could be with James Small and Chase Briscoe?
So I always thought the 19 with Mark Truex Jr. behind the wheel had tons of speed, but the execution at times was a little on the weaker side for what I expected. Then when Chase drove, I think it almost took the pressure off the execution because they just had to find some rhythm and some speed. They obviously had that, and they executed. And that's what I thought that Southern 500 was so impressive to me, is this 19 has had race-winning speed, more than once, twice this year, but they kind of find a way to mess it up a little bit. And when everyone else messed it up, I was just waiting for the other shoe to fall, and it never did. This 19 was flawless at one of the toughest races to run all year long. So
Yeah, Briscoe's got some nice
potential is
schemes.
high and good spirits. I was in the truck earlier today, and James Small was in there. The team was in there. They were focused but lighthearted. You could tell the pressure for the next 2 weeks was off.
You got to wonder how they approach the next 2 weeks, Jeff. They should be good here. They know they'll be good next week at Bristol, where they finish top 5 in the spring.
Full offense.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you take any time off, or do you just keep your foot on the gas?
I don't think you take time off, but if you have a bad day, it's okay. That makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
you
sure.
want to go there with high expectations, but knowing you're in the next round, Dylan, if you have a bad day, it just doesn't have the consequence it does to everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you guys said it exactly right. Good vibe right now for the 19. And I spoke with James Small too, and he talked about just how validating last week was for Chase as he learns this JGR organization, learns what he needs from these race cars. Just validated that everything he's doing to get better is working. And I thought the other thing that was interesting too, and this was no knock on Chase's other team, but James made the notion that Chase is still learning how to race consistently up front and race around the guys that are up front week in and week out. And Chase himself even noted to James a few weeks ago that those guys are starting to race him differently because they respect him a little bit more. So there's a lot to learn when you go to a new team, apart from just learning how the cars ride and everything else. But when you take that step of performance, sometimes there's even more that goes into it as well.
And to add to that, when we spent some time with him last week, the conversation was fascinating about how he had to adjust to drive this race car, right? We hear so much about all the cars are the same, they're all built the same. Well, he had to drive this car completely different than the cars he was accustomed to. He had to learn when to push, when not to push. He had to learn where to trust it, where not to trust it. And that is still happening also. He still doesn't have a full year. He hasn't driven a race car here before with this team. This team still has upside, and that makes them exceptionally dangerous in these playoffs.
Yes, to that point, James Small told me he's just started to see that light bulb go off in the sim and in the races, to where he's finally understanding fully what it takes to drive a Joe Gibbs racing car. Meanwhile, I know a crew chief that's happy, Steve. That would be Cliff Daniels, crew chief for Kyle Larson. They came here, did the tire test back in June. Cliff told me it was like 103 ambient temperature, like 150 track temperature. And he was worried before practice. Would it translate to today? I would say it has.
Yeah, so far so good. Second fastest overall, and a big gap on the other cars within his same group. Blaney being next all the way down to 12th on the board. I snickered when you said Cliff Daniels is happy, and I'm like, well, if he is, you don't know ever. He's very stoic. He's very general-esque. Not a lot of motion, good or bad. Like, he doesn't ride the roller coaster. That's it. Winning, losing, fast, slow. That's the facial expression of Cliff Daniels, and I do think that is very good for Kyle Larson, who could be a little emotional. He races with fireworks. It's not quite checkers or wreckers, but it's really, really fast. Sometimes he hits some stuff. I think they're a very good pairing, right? One very calm, one kind of up and down, and I think they're righting the ship. It was a long summer, a little bit bumpy over the summer. Darlington was only in 19. They got to be excited to go to Bristol next week. I think they
They're still leading laps.
I was going to say, I think they might just give him the pole because they let so many in the spring. Like, it was unbelievable. Although now he turns left. Is he coming to pit road? This will be out.
Yep.
Yeah, look at this right here. Look
Wow.
at road entry. I'm not sure. 7 laps in, so coming to pit road.
Pace had fallen off quite a bit. That last lap
Yeah.
around 60. If Blaney had run a 20, Elliott a 35. So I don't think he's happy with his car right here.
That's not going to get it. He looked good for the first few.
Well, you talk about, Jeff, all the issues for Hendrick Motorsports to kick off the playoffs. No car better than 17th. I mean, how do you regroup from that? I mean, Hendrick Motors, they led every lap of stage 1 and 2 in the spring at Darlington. So not have a car to finish better than 17th, that's a massive regroup.
Yeah, it's racing. It's just so difficult. They have not been very good at their stretch track. They, come here, and you look at average points earned. Team Penske #1 at 41 points, average earned. Hendrick Motorsports 24. That's only fifth best. So it's just the expectation level from the Hendrick teams is so high. It's just so unusual to see them have poor performance.
But to your point, yeah, this is the racetrack they were worried about before the playoffs even started. St. Louis was one they had circled. Here's what Kyle Larson and his team had to say on the radio just a moment ago.
I didn't hit the middle field early, get it. But the exit quite tight.
we're going to
So up to you being, I don't really know, like are we fast, slow? He just says tight. Tight was the big concern for all of the teams. So Goodyear, this tire combination, left side tires are a concern at this racetrack. So Goodyear wanted to bring a more durable tire. What does that mean? They went to a completely different build, an intermediate style build, kind of what you would see at Charlotte at some of the high speed tracks. And that mold is a little taller. So they lost about 50% of the stacker from left to right. So left side tires are usually smaller than the right side tires, just like rolling the Solo Cup. It kind of rolls in a circle.
Yep.
Same idea for race cars. Left side smaller than the rights. Well, the gap between the two is only half as what it once was. So the car doesn't want to turn as easily. So there was a lot of conversation about, hey, we don't know what that's going to do. We think it's going to make the car overall very tight or disconnected from the middle to the exit. So we'll just have to see if that's true for all the cars or just something that Keller's instructed with.
Danielle?
Yeah, Marty, Ryan Blaney has the best average running position in the Cup Series here at Gateway at fifth. Ryan Blaney's teammate on the 22 at Penske, Joey Logano's crew chief, Paul Wolf said, yeah, we have that intermediate package here and the Iowa tire. It worries me a little bit, even though most people think the shorter, flatter track strong suit because aero is not as much of a factor. He said, this tire actually concerns me. Not sure if we'll be as dominant as an organization as we have been the last few years.
Well, I would say right now that 12 car is the best car on the racetrack.
Yep.
He was 12th fastest overall, but second fastest in this group. But even in traffic, pretty good, and he still was able to make really good lap time.
That's 14 laps into the run, too.
There's always things to make the race car better, but they have to be pretty happy with how they've unloaded.
Just remember, this was the 12 car. While he didn't win here at Gateway, he was one lap away, a fueling issue.
Only half a lap, Steve.
Yeah, I mean,
Coming to the white.
had the race really won. It's partner behind him, and then the car runs short on fuel. And Cindric goes on for the win. Now, look, Cindric was there. I mean, it was a bad break for 12, but Cindric did what he needed to do. If a bad break happens, you want to capitalize. But just a real emotional day for the 12. But hey, those happen. Look, trust me. Oh, if anybody knows, I know.
Is it going to bring up Charlotte?
Charlotte, Phoenix, Vegas, in your career, not even counting.
This a moment ago for the most recent winner here in St. Louis.
Little kiss.
Not too bad.
Yeah, he was at Darlington last week.
Just used to running Darlington. Do we call that the St. Louis stripe?
Yeah, I'd be more concerned if it took the yellow off the tires. Let's see what Chastain does.
Whoa, that is way up the hill.
Yeah. No, that's not very comforting.
Was that on a downshift when that happened, Jeff?
I think he's loose on entry anyway. I don't think the downshift calls it. Let's see. I see he was. I don't know. Maybe you could make it on
First downshift, maybe. That's what we're talking about, the double downshift.
Double
right?
downshift.
So your option is this. You can lift, downshift, 1001, 1002, downshift again, or you can lift and coast and brake all the way down to the corner and then just go 5, 4, 3. You kind of do it all together, or you could spread them out. Chastain was spreading them out. The first one perhaps upset the car. Timing was similar, whether that was the cause or just similar area of the racetrack.
So, Jeff, a lot of teams will only shift once, going down into 1 and 2 here. Trackhouse cars doing it twice, which was SVG's plan today as well. They'll always mostly double downshift going into 3 and 4, right?
Other way.
Other way.
So I have always double downshifting in 1 and 2. So that turns 1 and 2 because it's the smaller end of the racetrack. So this place is an egg. It's much like Darlington, and the pointy side of the egg is 1 and 2. So you see he's going to roll turns 3 and 4 in fourth gear. So has less banking, which is why you would think that. It's only 9 degrees down there in 3 and 4, but it's a much wider corner. 1 and 2 is like the pointy side of the egg. That's where he's going right now. So right there, fourth. You'll probably grab now third, more banking, but a sharper corner. The other end flatter, but wider.
Gotcha.
Oh, trust me. 2 weeks ago, I didn't have that answer. I was studying this week to be.
We're all learning.
Well,
St. Louis together.
This was, you talked about the track temperature. That's another, not only are we in the playoffs, but this used to be the 15th race of the year on average. And our friends at Fox covered it. It was towards the end of their TV window. And it's like the heart of Midwestern summers. Like it is 100 degrees out here, it seems like. Every official and every team member I talked to, all they told me was how nice the weather is and how we should really appreciate it being this comfortable out here this time of year.
You look on the left-hand side of your screen, Kyle Larson's highlighted because he is indeed a playoff driver. Everybody else in the top 10 from Group A. You see Ryan Blaney down there in 12th, and Chase Briscoe in the green means that he's already advanced to the next round. Meanwhile, Denny Hamlin trying to recover from a rough Darlington as well. Really started on pit road, Jeff. I think you could argue they had a top 3, top 4 car for Hamlin, but that one rough pit stop we showed a moment ago, they went back to 28. It took them the entire race to get back to the top 10, and then it was only able to finish 7th.
The stakes are so costly. They had a really good race car. After the race, you know, he was very like, I don't know what happened. Right? He just off track position and kind of this was done at that point. We're talking about who's running well and who's not. You talk about Joey Logano in the position he's in at points. They do not look very good right here. I mean, his last lap, and he has clean air. His last lap was a 30, I mean, slow for 34.20. And there's guys out there still running 33s. He just does not have the pace he needs. The 9 cars fast, 12 cars fast, the 24 cars good. But this car, they are struggling.
Steve, I had a very similar conversation with Paul Wolf that Danielle had, and he said, you know, yeah, we're good at this type of track. This tire at Iowa, we were not good on this tire. And we cannot rely on Bristol next week. He said it's been a very up and down racetrack for us over the last few years.
Mostly down.
This is where we have to make it happen this weekend. Does that add too much pressure? Even though this team is great under pressure to join Logano on Sunday.
Well, whether it adds it or doesn't add it, it's real. They're 3 points below. And when you think, all right, SVG 3 points above, you know, he has to have a standout day. But I'll tell you, a driver I had a little bit of concern for was the 9 of Chase Elliott. You know, they're super consistent, but will consistency be enough? Only 9 points above? Well, if you're grading practice, they get an A from me. Running the high line of the racetrack, turning down, nice little exit. And I'm going to tell you from lap, I don't know, 14 on, they're okay in the first 14 laps. But from 14 on, he is standing out dramatically. Now, I don't know if that's some of this line change that he's chosen to do, but he is really tailing in the right direction, they're just not losing grip compared to others.
I would put his teammate, 24 car William Byron, in that same category. Now look where he's running.
Yeah, maybe there's something for that.
Yeah, he's up the racetrack. He's got some traffic directly in front of him. The 2-car Cindric, he has less laps on his tires. Let's listen to what they're talking about.
Later, I feel like I'm learning some stuff at my age. I'm getting out of short runs, and like now it's kind of gotten into a place I need to learn.
I love that. I love that the crew chief doesn't tell him he got a position to what we could do. William has not confidence. I think that's where this relationship's really budding is it's growing as Williams maturing as a race car driver. I think this is definitely a thing. Actually, William was on my flight out here last night, if you can believe it. I asked him, what are you doing? I know there's a team plane coming in the morning. Why don't you fly on the team plane? He goes, look, the team plane leaves early in the morning, and I don't want to have a long day. I want to be fresh, and I want to be ready. I have my motorhome out there. It's very comfortable for me. So he jumped on a commercial flight to come out here, sleep in, quote, his own bed on the road, his motorhome, to get a good night's rest. Like, that's...
Imagine seeing William Byron on a commercial flight.
You know, like, he's... That
going to the racetrack.
It just proves to me how committed William Byron is to his craft, and I think it all adds up.
Dylan, what's up?
But hey, you know, we talked about this tire test that the 5 and some of these other cars have done here in June. But I was talking to Rudy Bugle about what actually will apply from that test. He said the biggest thing is that their baseline fundamental setup, he felt like, was much improved from that test. He said, yeah, there's going to be some things we have to kind of be conscious of and maybe change because the temps are so much cooler this weekend. But baseline fundamentals was definitely an improvement from what we've had here in years past. So between him and then the 9, who we talked about with Chase Elliott, they were also really happy with just how their car has been over the course of this long run. I think that seems to be ringing true. So even though the temps were different, maybe still some valuable lessons learned here from that test for both of the Hendrick Motorsports cars.
Yeah, Dylan, I think that's a terrific point, Steve. I was talking to Alan Gustafson about that today, and he said, honestly, all 4 of our cars, 99% of what we have in the car is what the 5 learned here at the test. We have offsets for our drivers, but we're all pretty much the same. And I find that compelling because if you look at the trajectory of the 9 in their run and the 24 in their run, kind of the same picture. Not great in the first 14 laps or so, but after that, they're both really good on the long runs.
And I think that, they may not have to maybe spruce up the short run a little bit, or you just tell yourself, hey, this race is going to be run on a long run. History would say that you really have to be good on the long run here and kind of be able to run on old tires.
I think somebody looks pretty decent right now comparing him to his teammate. And I think that's the smartest thing to do. The 88 car of SVG, we talked about him. His opportunity. Can he make it out of this round? You said it, Steve. Darlington didn't go as well as they needed it to. Kind of need to have one of those days where they just had a reasonable day, right? And take advantage of other people's mistakes. But if you look right here at SVG, he doesn't show much speed overall, but he's only 1 position behind his teammate Ross Champagne. And later in the run, he's right there with him. Their pace is very, very similar.
And some of that can be a balance change, but let's remember that SVG has never raced here in anything. So to go, we just talked about it's a little bit of Frankenstein. It's this, it's that, it's double downshift. Talk about all the detail of the racetrack. Well, the poor guy's learning on the fly. 25 laps in. To your point, Jeff, in the long run, it's getting better, more competitive. So is that him learning the track? Is that the car?
He just ran a 33.75. I mean, that is a very, very good lap time for these laps on tires, Daniel.
Yeah, Jeff, and SVG's pushing with those 4 wins coming into the playoffs are essentially gone after a disastrous playoff opening race at Darlington where he was just fighting to stay on the lead lap. And as you mentioned, never seen Worldwide Technology Raceway before, now just only 3 points above the cut line. Then I asked his teammate Daniel Suarez about this right side tire from Iowa, and he said, I'm not sure how much it correlates because Iowa is so bumpy and this racetrack is not, Steve. So how much can you gain? Although the tire is the same, the last place we saw it is somewhat different.
It is somewhat different. And the more I dug into it, similarities go away quickly. Iowa's rough. This place is smoother, at least on corner entry. Iowa runs the short track aero package, the simple diffuser. This is the full aero package with the full diffuser. So, there are some similarities. You can't just throw them away. It's not Talladega against Martinsville. It's not that crazy. But there are more differences than similarities. Same way for Phoenix and New Hampshire. Everybody says, oh, this is the big test. And I think it's easy to say that because, Penske runs so good here. But there's really not a lot alike. They run different tire packages. They run different aero packages. They run a lot of different things.
Talk about lines at this racetrack. Where do you run? I just said that Joey Logano, his car wasn't very good. Well, Joey Logano said, we're going to fix that. So he changes his line completely. Look where he's running. He was on the bottom of the racetrack. Now he's in the 2nd and a half, almost 3rd groove. And now his pace is as good as anybody on a long run. So this is what's so difficult about practice, Steve, is you have to put the car in the line that it's the fastest, right? But where's it going to be fast tomorrow?
Right.
What does my car need to do? Clearly, he wasn't good enough on the bottom. He's moved up the racetrack, and now his pace is very competitive.
What I've seen in previous races here, you have to be good in the 2nd lane or 3rd lane. Because when you get on long run, you just kind of park it in that 3rd lane and just invite the guy to try to pass you underneath. Like you watch the 9 and the 23 right here. The 9's probably going to run the top. 23 is going to go to the bottom. The 23 wants to turn better than the 9 and be able to drive up next to him, but you just can't get the power down when you're kind of have to run that shallower exit. You cannot power up and drive up next to the 9 like you would like to.
On 34 laps on tires, there is no one on the racetrack faster than Shane Van Gisbergen. Now, what does that mean? Right? Can he take advantage of that speed? I mean, he just ran a 33.70. That is good stuff.
Best thing that's going to help for SVG in that situation is qualifying well, which is going to be difficult because he's never touched this racetrack before. So does he know where the fastest limit is for his own ability and his race car's handling for one fast lap to try to get him up towards the front of the leaderboard? That is yet to be determined, obviously, qualifying immediately after practice. Long run speed's not going to matter much on a track where it's very difficult to pass if you qualify at the back, because it's going to take you even longer to get to the front anyway. But if you're already at the front and you have good long run pace, that is probably going to be the car that's most capable of winning tomorrow afternoon. Ty Gibbs, fastest in practice overall. Kyle Larson, second fastest, is fastest in this group. He was lacking a lot of long run pace, came into the pits pretty early, only about 6 minutes or so into this session. I don't even know if he had a 10-lap average. If he did, that's probably as much as he had for consecutive laps. And I don't think we'll see him on the 15-lap category side of things. Ryan Blaney, second fastest in this group. Chase Briscoe, third. Then Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin would be fourth and fifth fastest of Group 2 on the racetrack. We'll go through the full practice leaderboard with about 2 minutes remaining in this session. Ty Gibbs first. Kyle Larson second. Brad Keselowski third. Fourth for Carson Hocevar. Todd Gilliland fifth. Cole Custer sixth. Michael McDowell seventh. Zane Smith eighth. Jonathan Nemechek ninth. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 10th. Noah Gragson 11th. Ryan Blaney 12th. Chase Briscoe 13th. Riley Herbst in 14th. Daniel Suarez 15th. Chase Elliott 16th. Denny Hamlin 17th. Christopher Bell 18th. 19th for Bubba Wallace and Cody Ware 20th. Josh Berry 21st. Tyler Reddick 22nd. Joey Logano 23rd. William Byron 24th. Alex Bowman 25th. Eric Jones 26th. Austin Cinder 27th. Justin Haley 28th. Chris Buescher 29th. And Ryan Preece 30th. 31st, Ross Chastain. Kyle Busch 32nd. Shane Van Gisbergen 33rd. Ty Dillon 34th. AJ Allmendinger 35th. And Austin Dillon 36th. That was one thing I noted in the chat about RCR being off this weekend. 32nd for Kyle Busch right now. 36th for Austin Dillon. Dillon not only is last, but he's 0.3 off of 35th of AJ Allmendinger. So it's not like he is... I mean, he's 0.9 off of the fastest lap that Ty Gibbs put down. And they're actually talking about Austin Dillon right now, so I'll let you listen in for a second.
Back out. Now Austin Dillon is also saying on the radio that he's loose everywhere. So from one...
Loose.
They are still looking for the right feel in that 3-car.
Yeah, and this is where a single practice just becomes, man, it goes by quick. Because let's not forget, they have to get it better for tomorrow, but the first thing they have to do is get qualified.
Yeah.
So, you're really asking, you have to do a lot of digesting of information and decision making in the next, say, 9 or 10 minutes. And it's really that quick. It's kind of like the fourth quarter of a football game or a 2-minute drill. Like, there is no halftime. You don't have to go in there and write up a new game plan. You have to make a lot of decisions on the fly here for qualifying.
Alex Bowman just 25th quick, and Jeff, this is a team that's 5 below the cut line, coming to a racetrack that has not been great for Hendrick Motorsports. What do you think the path is to the next round for this 2018?
Well, they had a tough week last week. They didn't have the pace they needed. They had that major problem on pit roads. To be honest, just put that behind you, and come here and just give your best. They weren't happy when they unloaded. They did make a stop during this run, but I think they made their car better for sure. I will say this, though, that practice, about halfway through this session, everybody moved to the top. And the minute everybody moved to the top, everybody got faster.
Yep.
So where do you qualify? Do you run the second lane? Do you run the third lane? That's the question right now as this practice ends, as they start focusing on.
All right, so while Group 2 of practice just rounded up, we went through the full leaderboard. Let's take a look at those lap averages now, since we had both groups of cars out on the racetrack. So Ryan Blaney had the fastest 5:10. Yeah, so Ryan Blaney had the fastest 5 and 10 lap average of anybody in Group 2. So any of the playoff drivers, fastest in those categories. He had the fastest 15 and 20 lap average overall, even compared to the Group 1 slate of drivers. And William Byron, fastest 25 and 30 lap averages of any driver. So Ryan Blaney was good on the medium run, but then the 24 and the 9 for Hendrick Motorsports, lacking the short run pace, but pretty solid 25 plus laps in, where they were beating the likes of Ryan Blaney. Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, some of those playoff drivers who have ran really well right here at Gateway in the past. Hamlin runner-up in the last 2 races here. Joey Logano, 3 top 5s in his 3 races. Best average finish of any driver in the Cup Series at St. Louis. We'll take a quick break. Again, you're listening to live coverage of practice and qualifying on KRC. Qualifying coming up next. Practice has just concluded. Rushing the page here, qualifying leaderboard is now on screen. The first 9 drivers in the order they'll qualify in. We'll start things off with Cody Ware, then go to Ty Dillon, Michael McDowell, Riley Herbst, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Those are the first 5. After them will be Justin Haley, Todd Gillett, Cole Custer, and Daniel Suarez. The last 16 drivers will be all of the 16 playoff drivers, and we'll finish things off with last week's winner, Chase Briscoe, based off of course, our metric that they used to determine the qualifying order based off of owners, driver standings, fastest lap, and race finish from the week before. Ronnie Packman, thanks for tuning in. Well, the crazy thing with Austin Dillon and those 6 wins, I believe he's got the 3rd most wins of any driver RCR all time. Now, he's probably been there for a lot longer than almost everybody else that he is ahead of, but they haven't really had great equipment for more than one race car outside of, maybe in the late 2010s. They were a little bit more evenly dispersed between like a Harvick, a Boyer, a Burton, but for the most part, even then, it was mostly Kevin Harvick. And even Kevin Harvick only had 14 career wins at RCR before going to SHR. Like, it is hard to believe how many more wins Kevin Harvick had from 2014 to the end of his career. Like, he won a ton of races in the back half of his career. And you wonder, how many races could Kevin Harvick have had won if he was in that good of equipment all the way through his Cup career? When Dale Earnhardt was struggling there towards the end of his career in the late 90s, he got to like 97, 98, back half 97 onward. I mean, Dale, really since that wreck at Talladega he had where he broke his neck, I mean, he, in my personal opinion, wasn't the same driver he was before that when you look at it from a statistical standpoint. He won a few more races, obviously, there. Won a couple of them, I think, in 2000. But as far as, competing for championships, that was pretty much gone by the wayside. And Kevin Harvick had some quick success and was consistent out of the gate, but it was hard to consider him a championship favorite really any of the years that he was running with that organization. Danielle Trott has caught up with Shane Van Gisbergen on pit road.
Aggressive can you be tomorrow? What's the strategy or mindset?
Yeah, obviously last week it wasn't very good, so we need to be better this week. I need to make no mistakes, and our car's really good. So yeah, we just need to put a solid day together and go to Bristol and see where we end up. But feeling more confident after that.
Confident and smiling, Dylan Welch. Not a bad start for SVG here.
Yeah, not a bad start.
He's always smiling.
We walk down the qualifying line here. So 3rd fastest in practice, 3rd in this race a year ago. Do you have the feeling in your car today to maybe back that up tomorrow?
Yeah, I'd like to get a good qualifying run here. That's so important at this track. Pit road's really, really narrow. You got to have a good pit stall. I think you're doing, but yeah, I mean, we came here, we were here for the test. It was our 1 test of the year for the 16. And I felt like we had not the best of tests, but we learned from it. Took a better consumer center Ford Mustang back to the race weekend, and it's showing up.
So the conditions in that test obviously were a lot different than what we've got today. How much of what you guys learned applied to this weekend?
A lot. A lot of different tires. Goodyear brought the tire we ran at Iowa. I thought it was a lot different tire than anything else we raced, and it's going to create a different race with it values different things.
All right, good info there from Brad Kay. He's getting ready to qualify the 6 car.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski certainly impressive in that practice session. Can he get it?
All right, qualifying going to be on the other side of the current commercial break, airing on True TV. We'll take another break of our own here. Again, you're listening live on our KRC Productions of NASCAR Cup Series qualifying the Enjoy Illinois 300 for this weekend's race at Gateway. Kurt Busch terrorized drivers in the 2000s. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was a random comment, but you're not wrong either. Yeah, not as many drivers, that's for sure, Ronnie. I mean, he's got to have not only the third most wins for that organization, but the third longest tenure. Actually, his tenure, it'd be the same amount as Harvick in the Cup Series from 01 to 2013 for Harvick. Half as many races won for the 3. Nowhere near the amount of top 10 in points finishes either. I don't even think Austin Dillon's had a top 10 points finish. He's been in the playoffs several times, but even under the format, I don't think he's had a top 10 in points. I'll look it up. We've got time to kill. Austin Dillon. Like that, it says error as soon as I click on the webpage. Come on, Racing Reference. Dillon. Austin Dillon. Cup Series 2014 full time. It's not quite as many years. He's getting close though. I was thinking he ran more than 11 races in 2013. He did not. He was Rookie of the Year in 2014. I mean, as competitive as it is in the Cup Series, he has won 1 race this season in 6 of the last 9 years. You know, for as bad as RCR is, it's an execution by the team, really. I mean, if you think about it, like when that team is on, like not last week at Richmond, but a few weeks ago at Richmond now, when that team's on, they're on. And they don't miss. When they're in situations where they can win, they do. They execute the best strategy. You know, we saw that Texas 2020 was kind of the same way. Executed on a pit stop, and once they were out towards the front, Austin didn't make any mistakes. He doesn't overdrive the car very much, which is why a driver like a Kyle Busch at RCR will see more often at the same level up inside the top 10 than that of an Austin Dillon, for instance. Busch is getting more out of that car than what Austin Dillon's able to get, but Austin Dillon will take a race-winning car and He's not going to make any mistakes. He's going to keep himself in contention with it. I'll give Austin credit there. All right, so Cody Ware just wrapping up his qualifying lap, 33.650 for him. I got to pull my qualifying stats up on screen real quick. While I do that, I'll let you listen into the coverage for a second.
Cody ran a 33:30 essentially in practice and ran a 33:60. But he was in the first group.
Yeah.
And the racetrack has changed. Now he was first and second group. There you go.
Wow, Ty Dillon way up the racetrack in 1 and 2.
Not sure he meant to be that.
Correct, yes.
No, that was the target. That was the target line. It was commitment.
Steve, love to see DraftKings on the car.
Absolutely.
Not that you might have any DraftKings money on the college football today. You know.
Hey, I'm not allowed to bet on racing or I would.
Correct,
You know, but all that football.
It's too inviting, isn't it, Stevie?
You know, you got to support NASCAR sponsors. They're here on the car. I feel it's my duty.
Yeah, I feel bad if I did.
63 for Ty Dillon on his lap.
Almost the same time as Cody Ware got there in a completely different manner. Let's see what Michael McDowell has to say about it.
McDowell's a driver that'll show us what most are going to do, and I think that's it. I think corner exit, not on the bottom of the racetrack. I think that's the way to do it. Corner entry is a little bit of a.
I think you point to the bottom. You're carrying so much speed, you kind of point to the bottom, and if you get there, fine, which is what he did right here. But you don't keep turning the wheel to hold it there. You don't be afraid of a wider exit. Unlike in race trim, where I think you can roll it in the top and not be afraid to kind of turn down on it.
McDowell to the top by quite a bit, Dylan.
And let's catch up with Alex Bowman as he waits his turn to qualify. So, yeah, I know this place has presented its challenges for you in the past. Did you get a better read on maybe what you had here in practice for qualify?
Yeah, honestly, I was pretty happy with the car in the long run. I thought the end of our second run was pretty good. We didn't have the single lap fire off speed that we wanted, but it honestly drove pretty okay on the long run. So I feel like we're all about the same speed, and passing is going to be really difficult. So going and laying down a lap is going to be really important. Hopefully we're able to do that, but just proud of this LI 48 team for continuing to work hard. Obviously last week wasn't what we wanted, but doing all we can to be better this week, and so far it drives pretty good.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, Riley Herbst wrapping up his qualifying lap, second for him. First 4 drivers to go out. Cody Ware, 4th of 4. Then Ty Dillon, 2nd. Herbst was just on racetrack before him, Michael McDowell. So McDowell fastest of our first 4 so far. 5th driver just to wrap up a lap, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with a 33.538. Stenhouse in the 3 races here has the best finish of 20th back in last season's race with GTG Doherty Racing. Stenhouse has not posted a top 10 finish since before the All-Star break this season. For qualifying purposes, middle of the road to be 3rd out of 5. And on to Justin Haley. As Haley's on track, Daniel Trott is caught up with Kyle Larson.
Wait, Kyle, how important is track position going to be given it's only a 300-mile race tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think the distance, obviously, and then it's just really hard to pass here. Hard to pass anywhere in an action car these days. But, yeah, Gateway is really difficult, you know, as we were kind of seeing in practice. My guys would catch people and just get stuck. So, yeah, qualifying is going to be extremely important. You'll be able to lay down a decent lap there in practice, but it took a few laps to do that. I think everybody did, but yeah, I don't know what my grip will be like here on this lap, but we'll try to, see if we can nail it.
He's been studying SN.
3rd for Justin Haley with a 33.252. Haley finished 9th last season with Rick Ware Racing at Gateway. Obviously this year running full-time for Spire Motorsports in the number 7. Trying to do what he can to keep that ride. Good qualifying effort so far for Haley. Todd Gilliland, 15th 2 seasons ago, 2023, has had 2 top 15 finishes here at Gateway. Looking for maybe a third tomorrow. Second for Todd Gilliland in qualifying, 33.230. And on to Cole Custer. They talked about it over the broadcast. I'll mention it again, but Haas Automation will be moving to Chevrolet, back to Chevrolet. They were at Chevrolet from their inception back with the SHR days to the 2018 season, I believe was their first year under the Ford manufacturer. And from Ford back to Chevrolet with their lone single car Cup team, Cole Custer will be driving that car as well next season. As for Custer, he's only had 1 race here at Gateway, and that was back in 2022 where he finished 29th. So it's been a couple of years since we've seen Custer in a Cup car at this track. As for Custer, second in qualifying, 33.201, just 4 thousandths of a second off of Michael McDowell. Usually see the Spire cars right on top of each other in qualifying, but Haley and McDowell separated by a bit. About 500ths of a second or so. Daniel Suarez on the number 99. Now on the racetrack. 1 top 10 finish in the 3 Gateway races for Suarez. That was a 7th in 2023. Finished top 10 in both stages in that race as well, leading up to the top 10 finish. Suarez still in search for a ride starting next season. And he's going to put himself to the top of the leaderboard here and qualify by quite a wide margin over Michael McDowell, 33.038 for Suarez. And that's pretty solid because we haven't seen many great qualifying efforts out of Daniel Suarez this season. And you definitely don't want to start at the back on a track like Gateway. So good effort so far through the first quarter of qualifications. Ty Gibbs, who was fastest in practice, is going to be up next. After Gibbs will be Gregson, Zane Smith, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Preece, Carson Hocevar, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, and John Hunter Nemechek. Those will be the next 9 in order. Again, Ty Gibbs up next. We'll take a quick break. You're listening live on KRC to qualifying at Gateway. Some point, can I list who's in the playoffs right now? So that is scrolling at the top of the screen, but I did mention it at the start of practice on stream. Here's that list again for you. Chase Briscoe, obviously, in the next round with the win at Darlington last week. Plus 43 for Denny Hamlin. Plus 38, Kyle Larson. Reddick is fourth, plus 35. Byron and Wallace, plus 25. Ryan Blaney, plus 22. Plus 21 for Ross Chastain. Austin Cindric, plus 12. Bell, plus 11. Plus 9 for the number 9, Chase Elliott. Plus 3 for SVG. Last driver in. First driver out, Joey Logano at minus 3. Minus 8, Austin Dillon. Alec Bowman, minus 19. The same for Josh Berry. So there we have it. So still in the first half of qualifying. Ty Gibbs has not scored a top 10 at Gateway. He's only ran 2 races here, though. He was not the 2022 race. Didn't start filling over for Kurt Busch until the back portion of that campaign. Finished 11th last year. Was that better of the 2 runs prior? And again, he was fastest in practice earlier. He was the only driver to run a sub-33 second lap time. We're going to see quite a few more run sub-33 second lap times once we get through qualifying. It's only the second Toyota to make a lap. He'll be first on the speed chart, almost similar to what he ran in practice to a T. 32.889 for Ty Gibbs. 136.824 mile per hour average. Let me look back to practice. I mean, that might be the same exact lap time. I don't know if I'm able to look. Nope, not letting me. Got to go back to qualifying now. Let me try to refresh the page real quick. I think I just saw the lap times pop up. 32.898. Okay. So he was a little bit quicker. Not by much. 9/1000ths of a second quicker than what he was in practice. Noah Gragson, 22nd in last year's race at Gateway, also making his second Cup start at the track. Second in qualifying for Gragson with a 32.993. Little over a tenth off of Gibbs's lap, set right before him. Gregson's teammate Zane Smith now on the racetrack. Zane Smith going to be making his fourth start. And this will be the third start. I had that wrong. Third career start for Zane Smith at Gateway. And this will be his third different team that he has competed in. 2023, he had his best finish. He ran the 17 car for RFK that weekend. Remember, Chris Buescher had a concussion following his flip in the Coca-Cola 600 the week before that of the 2022 season. And Zane Smith got his first career start that day. Then last year, obviously, a rookie full-time at Spire Motorsports and now at Front Row. So 3 separate race teams and 3 races at Gateway in his Cup career. And Zane Smith will jump to the top of the speed charts. Great lap by Zane, 32.674, a couple tenths quicker than Gibbs. As the lap times keep getting quicker and quicker, track temp is slowly dropping when we have these qualifying times in the evening hours. The later you go out, maybe the slightly better track conditions you have versus the drivers that run before you. Track's gaining grip, getting quicker, and so are the drivers by way of caliber, really, for the most part, when we go by the current metric system we have for dictating qualifying order. Brad Keselowski, who finished third in 2023, is his best Gateway finish. Started 7th in last season's race. And he was one of the 3 drivers, the only Ford driver, part of the Goodyear tire test at Gateway earlier this season. So we'll see what that can translate for qualifying time for Brad K. Third is where that'll settle in, 32.957 for Keselowski. Pretty decent lap. I was mentioning about Daniel Suarez earlier not having great qualifying efforts for most of the season. That's been the case for Keselowski for the most part this year. He's turned it on better in qualifying over the last month and a half or so. Isn't getting out-qualified by as much compared to Buescher and Preece. And speaking of out-qualified, he's not going to get out-qualified by his teammate Ryan Preece this weekend. Preece had a big moment through turns 1 and 2 on his lap, and this is not going to be good for him. 17th in 2023, the best finish for Preece at Gateway coming into the weekend. This obviously is first with RFK Racing. Struggling in 3 and 4 as well. Not as bad as what he was in 1 and 2. But 10th quickest for Ryan Preece out of 15. Now he drops to 11th as somebody else just completed their lap. But 33.282 again for Preece. Immediately after him was Carson Hocevar. Hocevar jumps to 6th with a 33.133. Carson Hocevar's best run 8th, which came last season. He made his debut the year before that at Spire Motorsports in the number 7, filling in for Corey LaJoie, who was taking over for Chase Elliott that weekend in the 9 car after an Elliott suspension at Gateway. One of the few tracks that he's got as much experience as he does for as young of a race car driver as Hocevar is. Joe Logano standing on pit road with an interview.
I think the fastest, definitely a group moved around a lot in practice there, and looking at where everybody's qualifying, where the speed's going to be. But I feel like our Hunt Brothers Mustang had speed in the long run. Car, short run's a little bit off, so hopefully we can kind of tweak that a little bit and get
Joey Logano all smiles down here trying to get a pole. And by the way, Marty, he's also the only driver to have a top 10 finish in all three races.
Top 5 finish in all 3 races, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's just the top 10. Joey Logano was just spoken to moments ago. Another Ford driver on racetrack. The third of the RFK Fords, now Chris Buescher. Buescher finished 12th in the 2023 race. I mentioned already he missed 2022, so he's only got 2 races, the most prior to, at the track. We'll see if he can get his first top 10 here at Gateway this weekend. Good qualifying effort, 32.689, second quickest for the 17 team. And on to Kyle Busch, he struggled in practice earlier, is a former Gateway winner, one of the 3. We've had 3 different winners in the first 3 races here. Led 121 laps in 2023 en route to his victory from the pole. He finished second in 2022 with JGR, where he led 66 laps. Last season had a DNF. What will he have in store for this year? The track where he got his most recent victory in the Cup Series some 2.5 years ago, 2.5 seasons ago. 4th quickest for Kyle Busch in qualifying, not too shabby, 32.952. It's kind of a big gap, though, just almost 0.3 of a second between himself and Zane Smith, so I'm not sure how well that's going to hold for him. I definitely don't think he's staying in the top 10 with who we have left to go. All the playoff drivers still have to qualify, for instance, yet. John Hunter Nemechek immediately after him beats Kyle Busch. 3rd quickest for Nemechek, 32.852. One career race at the track for Nemechek. That was last season where he finished 27th. And on to AJ Allmendinger next. So the Dinger is going to be due up. Then Eric Jones. And then that will be it for the non-playoff drivers. And then the first playoff driver to qualify will be Josh Berry. Then Alex Bowman, SVG, Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon, Joey Logano, William Byron. And then the rest of them will go on the other side of what will probably be another commercial break after that 9-lap stint. So Zane Smith currently on the top of the pylon of the 18 out of 36 drivers to make a qualifying lap for this weekend's Enjoy Illinois 300, 32.674 the time to beat, an average speed on that lap of 137.724 miles per hour. Qualifying coverage continues again. You're listening live on KRC. Xfinity racing still to come later tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern as our coverage right here continues for Cup qualifying. So halfway through qualifying here this evening. Can't wait to see Gateway under the lights. We haven't seen that in a couple years in NASCAR. I believe the truck race there in 2022. No, that was in the evening. I didn't go to that race. I was at the Cup race the following day. I think the trucks got done just before dark. So we haven't seen a night race at Gateway for NASCAR since probably the Xfinity race back in 2010 then. Oddly enough, was the last time the Xfinity Series was also at Gateway. We've seen some night IndyCar races there over recent years, but we shall see. So again, Xfinity race tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and we'll go live for tomorrow's Cup race at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on the channel as well. AJ off and rolling from pit road. Knowing I'm probably behind on the coverage a little bit on Hulu, and he is probably about done with his qualifying lap, so We'll look at our live leaderboard chart here on NASCAR.com, see where he'll post in a few moments. 32.764 for AJ Allmendinger, and that will jump him into the third spot as of right now. So third for AJ Allmendinger out of our first 19 drivers to make a qualifying effort. AJ coming off a top 5 last weekend, finished 5th in the Southern 500, and he had a top 10 at Gateway, finishing 10th here in 2022. It's full-time Xfinity Series racing last year, so it's been a couple years since we've seen him at this racetrack. On to Eric Jones, who was also coming off a top 5 a week ago, finished 3rd last weekend in the Southern 500 at Darlington. He finished 7th in the 2022 race with this 43 Legacy Motor Club team at Gateway. And he was the lone Toyota a part of that tire test, along with Larson for Chevy and Brad Keselowski for Ford earlier in the season. So we'll see what kind of qualifying speed he's going to have. 3rd quickest for Eric Jones, 32.76 as he wraps up his lap. So just a little bit quicker than AJ Allmendinger. Austin Cindric on standby for an interview.
What'd you have in practice? What's it take from looking at a good lap here in qualifying?
I think the two are going to be a little different. You know, it takes definitely some commitment, definitely hitting your marks here for the qualifying lap. But track moved around a lot more than you know I probably would have expected. Probably as much as.
Thanks, Austin. Eric.
That's defending winner Austin Cindric, of course, that you just heard from moments ago. First playoff driver Josh Berry out on the racetrack. Not a good week last week, finishing dead last at Darlington in the Southern 500 after a lap 1 crash. Didn't have a great run here at Gateway last year with SHR either. Finished 36th with a DNF, so we'll see. If he makes it further than 1 lap into the race, it's improvement from a week ago. So that is a step in the right direction. And this is a Penske-affiliated Wood Brothers team. What kind of speed will that translate for the in-house team here for the Wood Brothers this weekend? They had speed on some of the flat ovals early in the year. Remember at Phoenix, they had a top 5 back in the spring. 32.698 for Josh Berry, 3rd fastest. So 3 consecutive drivers have posted themselves as the 3rd fastest time in qualifying. And we'll see if that trend is going to continue on to the next driver of Alex Bowman. Bowman has not scored a top 10 in the 3 races he has had here in his NASCAR Cup career. His best finish was in 2022 in the first one where he finished 13th. 31st last weekend for Bowman at Darlington to start the playoffs. He's 19 points below the cutoff line. Came in as a 16 seed. He is tied with Berry for 15th and 16th, and already a not so good qualifying lap for Bowman. He overdrove the entry to turn 1 pretty bad there. And 11th is where he posted 33.005. That's the first lap time over 33 seconds we've seen in a minute on this qualifying sheet. And starting at the back of Gateway, not exactly what you want to do. Being outside the top 10 with more than a dozen cars to go is not good for Bowman. After Bowman will be Shane Van Gisbergen in the 88. Making his Gateway debut. Again, no Xfinity races here. Trucks, no starts at the racetrack. Cold turkey coming into the weekend for SVG at Gateway. Good long run pace in practice, steady enough qualifying lap, and pretty decent. 6th for SVG, 32.765. I don't think that's going to hold him in the top 10, but he is almost all but guaranteed a top 15 start for Sunday's race. So of the last 13 drivers to make a qualifying lap, all but 2 of them, correct that real quick, all but 3 of them have scored at least 1 top 10 at Gateway. And up next will be Christopher Bell, who had a top 10 last season, finishing in 7th back in 2024. He led 80 laps last year, won the first 2 stages, and then had some engine issues down the stretch. It looked like it was going to be between him and Blaney, but then engine problems in the midst of that battle for the lead with Blaney on the long run to the finish. Never got to see if that 20 car was going to finish it out. Even if he didn't win, he would have ended up runner-up. He had a solid run. He's been dominant at New Hampshire, which is the most similarly styled racetrack to this, so he's got a good couple of races coming up for him this weekend and a couple of weeks at Loudon. Solid qualifying lap for Christopher Bell, P1, 32.512. over a tenth and a half faster than Zane Smith, who was on the top of the pylon for quite a long period of time before just getting bumped off. Austin Dillon dead last in practice, 36 out of 36, 9/10 off the fastest lap, 3/10 off of the next fastest lap. Looked like he was really tight through turns 1 and 2. He's not tracking anywhere near Christopher Bell, but he is pacing a decent enough lap. He may be able to beat Bowman out, not be the worst of the playoff drivers. He's only the 5th one to try to make a lap of the playoff 16. And Austin Dillon will jump to 5th with a 32.757. Joey Logano immediately after him, the 2022 Gateway winner, top 5 at all 3 races here. No other driver has had not only a top 10 at Gateway in all 3 races, but a top 5. Not a lot of laps led amongst those 3 races even combined, but he gets solid runs. Penske's great here, winning 2 of those 3 races. Dominant last season's race. They've led the most laps as an organization between those 3 cars, the 2, 22, and the 12 at Gateway than any other team combined. 32.719, right behind the in-house teammate at the 21 of Barry. So again, 5th for Logano. Now on track, William Byron in the 24, who had the fastest 25 and 30 lap averages in practice. Top of the speed charts for Byron in qualifying, 32.467. Topping Bell's time that he put up moments ago. Not a great track for Hendrick Motorsports, but he does have a single top 10 2023 for Byron. He finished 8th in that race. And again, good long run speed for him and Chase Elliott, in fact. And Elliott is now on track as well. Immediately after Byron. No top 10s in the 2 races here for Elliott, 13th and 21st in those 2 starts. Again, he missed the 2023 race. So that was the 22 and 24 seasons. The 13th was last season in 2024, which was the best of the 2. Following Chase Elliott will be Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, and Chase Briscoe. So 4 Toyotas finishing it out, of course, dominating last week's race at Darlington. So they'll be finishing this final stretch here shortly. And here is last week's winner of the Southern 500, Chase Briscoe, on standby with Danielle Trotta.
To know from anybody here, Byron's provisional pole sitter, you see the lap time. What's going to be the time that takes the pole here at Gateway, Chase?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna say 30. What is it? 32. Let's go 32, 36. Ooh, I have no idea. That's my guess. I don't know how good William felt about it, but I don't know. I feel like a 30. Could be a 46, but I feel like a 30 will probably get it done.
How do you feel about your car after practice and the weight momentum your team is carrying after the win yesterday? You're already advanced to the round of 12. So what is this race and next week like for you?
I think for us, it's all about trying to keep the momentum up first off, but then just trying to get playoff points. It doesn't matter if it's stage points or obviously winning the race, but yeah, it's definitely nice to know. I guess you kind of got a mulligan in the back if you need to, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel amazing in practice, but I thought we were at least competitive. So yeah, go see what we can do here in qualifying. It's definitely going to be a track position race. I mean, it always kind of is here, but yeah, see if we can at least get a good starting spot. See what we can do tomorrow.
Chase Briscoe might be the star here in Gateway, Dylan, but his son got recognized at the go-kart track at the shopping mall this week. That was the real highlight, I think, for the Briscoe fans.
Oh, Chase better start saving money then. Brooks is going to be in a go-kart before we know it. Zane Smith is 3rd right now, so good lap for you. You said he didn't feel that great, but what does that say about this team and the car that you guys have got prepared for the race?
Yeah, great effort from us. Regardless, I don't know. I think it looks like 9 more to go or something like that, but should have a good start spot for tomorrow. So yeah, lap didn't feel great, but this is an all new tire that we have, and it makes speed, but it just doesn't drive that good. But I don't care how it drives as long as it's fast. So yeah, good Long John Silver sport, but looking forward to tomorrow. Our practice went well as well, so yeah, hopefully stay out of trouble tomorrow and be around towards the end.
Thanks, Zane. He'll be able to see the front tomorrow.
During the Zane Smith interview, Chase Elliott wrapping up his qualifying lap, 32.799 for Elliott, 11th fastest. And we are now down to just 8 drivers to go. Ryan Blaney, as quick as he's been at Gateway, he has never won at this racetrack. He does have 2 top 5 finishes, and then obviously last year, the worst of the 3, where he finished outside the top 20 after running out of gas on the final lap while leading. He has finished 3rd or better in 5 of the 6 stages, so that'd be stage 1, stage 2, 3rd or better in 5 of 6 of those. 83 laps led last season before running out of gas again on that final lap. His best finish here, 4th in 2022. And he jumps to the top of the speed chart. He might have a better starting spot than any prior to this weekend at Gateway. Ryan Blaney quickest, 32.432 so far. Knowing how quick those Toyotas are in qualifying, I don't know that that's going to be a lap time that will hold, but it's still a great lap for the 12 team nonetheless. Kyle Larson should be tough to beat for the pole as well. He was the fastest on the short run of any of the playoff drivers in practice. And again, he was a part of that Goodyear tire test earlier in the spring. 4th in 2023 for Larson, his best finish at Gateway. He has finishes of 10th, 4th, and 12th in all 3 races. The best of the Hendrick 4 at this racetrack across all 3 races combined. And Kyle Larson, I mentioned threat for the pole. He jumps to P1, 32.351 for Larson, 800s quicker than Ryan Blaney. So now we're down to just 6 drivers to go. Defending winner Austin Cindric, who led 53 laps, finished 4th, 6th in the first 2 stages prior to winning the race a season ago. Trying to at least get close to where that 12 team is as the fastest Penske car for practice. See if Cindric can top him a bit qualifying. Cindric does have a front row start at Gateway back in 2022 and 2024. He's actually got 2 front row starts. No poles. 2nd is where he started in both of those events, though. Not going to get a front row this weekend, though. 32.571. Good lap nonetheless, though, for Cindric, 5th. Just not enough to get to the front. And now we have 1 Chevrolet and 4 Toyotas remaining. Final Chevy to qualify will be Ross Chastain. Best finish was 8th in 2022, which somehow I still don't know how he had a top 10 that day with all the shenanigans he had with both Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin on track. Still his best finish at Gateway. 14th in last season's race here, though he paced pretty quick. Last weekend, practice qualifying led to a good starting spot, scored a lot of stage points, and he's pretty healthily above the cut line entering the weekend. He's had speed here in the past with that 2022 race, but he's also got speed this weekend where he was top 5 in practice for the playoff drivers. And here he is, 2nd fastest in qualifying as he just posted a lap of a 32.408. 138.855 mile per hour average. That's 500s off of Larson, about 300s quicker than Ryan Blaney. Seen a replay of Cindric's lap. It looked like he got up against the fence off turn 2. It scraped the wall a brief moment, I believe, off turn 4 in practice as well. Combination of maybe being a little too tight and just trying to get all he can, especially for one singular qualifying lap as Cindric did a while ago. After Chastain, our first of the final 4 Toyotas will be Bubba Wallace. No top 20s for Wallace at Gateway. Not a great racetrack for him. Probably the worst of this round in the playoffs. Kind of middle of the road for the playoff drivers by way of practice, and that seems to be the case for qualifying as well. 11 on the timesheet for the 23. 32.739. Only playoff drivers he's ahead of would be Austin Dillon, SVG, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman. Denny Hamlin now on the racetrack. Hamlin has finished runner-up in the last 2 races at Gateway. He has not led a single lap in all 3 races here, but he's been very fast in all 3. When he got wrecked by Chastain in the first race back in 2022 in that first stage, he was also in the top 5. So good qualifying speed at Gateway consistently, good race speed. and good qualifying speed again here this weekend for Denny. He was last week's pole sitter at Darlington, and right now he's at the top with just 2 drivers to go behind him. 32.330 for Denny Hamlin, 139.19 mile per hour average. Final 2 drivers, Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe. Reddick, best finish last season here at Gateway, where he finished 4th. He started 5th in that race, so he's already got a top 5 qualifying spot. We'll see if he can back that up. Runner-up last weekend at Darlington. Put a lot of pressure on that final run on Chase Briscoe. Was definitely there at the finish, just not quite within striking distance. A little bit too far back as he made that dive bomb move. Final lap, final corner. .501 for Tyler Reddick. And that will get him up into 6th. So currently row 3, 6th for Reddick. Hamlin, again, time to beat, 32.330. And Chase Briscoe looks for his 12th front row start of the season. Has a fellow JGR Toyota to try to top. Now, Briscoe does have a pole here already. 2022 with SHR, he started on the pole in this race. Led 27 laps in that event. No top 15s. His best finish, though, 17th in the 3 races with SHR at Gateway, and that race was last season. Briscoe's got a pretty solid lap going for himself right now. No surprise with how great he's been in qualifying with this 19 team this year. But he's not going to be able to get to the pole. Just off the front row as well. 3rd for Briscoe, 32.397. And so Chase Briscoe will not get a front row start again, but instead it's now his teammate, Denny Hamlin, who has back-to-back pole awards and back-to-back weeks. Looking to have a better run from start to finish of tomorrow's race. Can't have any pit road blunders like they did at Darlington last week. Again, that qualifying pole time for Denny Hamlin was a 32.330, 139.19 mile per hour average lap speed. You'll get to hear from Denny Hamlin and probably Kyle Larson as well, who will also get a front row start. Larson will be starting in 2nd place for tomorrow's event. I think the 4 favorites for tomorrow's race all start up in the top 5. Kind of throw a blanket on them as of right now, as of who I think is going to win. But I think it's the 11, the 5, the 19, and the 12. And I think one of those guys is going to go to victory lane tomorrow. All looking strong in both practice and qualifying. I took a front row starter to get the win here at Gateway, and 2 of the last 2 races, Busch from the pole in 23, and last season, Cindric starting 2nd.
Did you make it that lap? Did it feel like a P1 lap to you?
No, not really.
Here's Denny.
Thought I could have done a little bit better job for the team, but proud of this whole progressive Toyota team, Chris and the whole guys, making really great adjustments. That's what they did so well last week, was make those good adjustments for qualifying, and now got great track position, just got to maintain it. We'll be in good shape.
You were in good shape after Darlington, Denny. You came in at plus 23. You left plus 43. You gained 20 points to the cut in 1 race. How would you like to perform tomorrow and at Bristol? How much of a cushion would you like here in this first round, aside from a win?
If you can tell me the highest number of which someone has been eliminated, I'll take 1 more than that.
I'll have Steve Letarte try to do some math for me here, Denny. Let's send it over to Dylan Welch.
And let's catch up with Kyle Larson, who will start outside the front row. So I was talking to Cliff earlier today, and he said this place has been a challenge for you guys in the past. So are you happy to at least be on the front row for tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is really great. I think our team needs it more than anything. We haven't been able to celebrate a whole lot. So we will definitely celebrate a front row starting spot at Gateway. So, happy about that. My car felt pretty good there. I felt like in practice, and still room to be even better. So, good day, and hopefully we can be 1 spot better going.
How tough is it to dial in a car here just with on paper you look at it, both ends are different, and finding the balance that you need over the long run?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I guess probably similar to like a Pocono. You know, it's not like you're ever going to feel quite right at each end of the racetrack, but you try to do your best to marry the two. So I feel like our team did a great job at the tire test we had here a couple months ago, and we were able to learn some things and apply it to some other short tracks, and here especially. So proud of my group, proud of HendrickCars.com, Hendrick Motorsports, Engine Shop, everybody there. Like I said, it's been a rough, inconsistent couple months. So even just qualifying good today feels really nice. So we'll try to go get it tomorrow and have a clean day, get some stage points, and hopefully be in a good spot for Bristol.
5 car has speed once again, Danielle.
Chase Briscoe does as well, Dylan. He's going to start third tomorrow. All right, you predicted the pole speed. How close were you? We got Hamlin at 32.330.
I said it was going to be a 30 something.
You were closer than that.
I thought I said a 34, but it may have been a 36. I don't know. I was close though. I felt like I just wish I thought I could have been the pole. I just did not put a very good lap together. I was surprised and honestly ended up being third. So just a testament to our, Bass Pro Shops Toyota as fast as it's been. So yeah, we got at least a good starting spot for tomorrow. It'll be a good, pit spot. This pit road is really tricky. It's kind of underrated. So yeah, it'll be a good start for our day, and hopefully we can keep it there.
You were only a tenth off. The track was a little bit faster than we anticipated. We saw that from late cars. Chase, we're seeing that this is a great track for Joe Gibbs Racing. How great can your run be tomorrow? Now that you've gotten through practice and qualifying, how happy are you with a long run and a short run?
Yeah, I mean, this has certainly been a Joe Gibbs Racing track typically. Just a flatter track. Typically, they seem to run good. But yeah, a hard car, I thought we were competitive. I wouldn't say we were a dominant car. I thought Bell was really, really good. A couple other guys kind of stood out. But for us, I thought we needed to work on it a little bit. And I thought we did a good job going into qualifying, making it better. So yeah, I know that they're making it better again tomorrow. Just a matter of keeping ourselves in position all day long. And if we do that, hopefully we can be there in the mix.
Qualified third for tomorrow, and only one man is safe entering this race at Worldwide Technology Raceway, and it's Chase Briscoe after winning Darlington.
What are we going to do if Daddy wins?
Alrighty, so there you heard from the top 3 starters for tomorrow's race. We'll go through the rest of the starting grid for the Enjoy Illinois 300. Again, the front row, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, back-to-back weeks for Hamlin on the pole. Larson, another front row start in the year. Been a minute since the last one, but he's up there again. He was also second fastest in practice. Chase Briscoe, Ross Chastain will make up row number 2. Ryan Blaney, William Byron in row 3. Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, row 4. Last year's winner, Austin Cindric, inside of row 5, alongside second-year driver Zane Smith. Chris Buescher, Josh Berry in row 6. Playoff drivers Joey Logano and Bubba Wallace in row 7. Logano a winner here in 2022. Austin Dillon with Eric Jones in row number 8. Row 9, AJ Allmendinger, Shane Van Gisbergen. Row 10, Chase Elliott and Jonathan Nemechek. Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch. Busch the 23 winner in row 11. Row number 12 for Brad Keselowski, Noah Gragson. Alex Bowman, last of the qualifying order for the second straight week of the playoff drivers. Inside of row 13 and 25th is where he starts. Daniel Suarez to his outside. Row 14 for Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell. Colt Custer, Todd Gillen, row number 15. Row 16, Justin Haley, Ryan Preece. Riley Herbst and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., row 17, and row 18, Ty Dillon and Cody Ware. And that will round out the full 36-car field for tomorrow's 300-mile race at Worldwide Technology Raceway. We'll be live for the NASCAR Cup race tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, beginning with our pre-race coverage. We'll also be live for tonight's NASCAR Xfinity Series race about an hour from now. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live for that one. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you haven't done so yet on your way out. Subscribe for more NASCAR content like this every NASCAR race weekend. See you guys in a little